We're going to go back in time now and with some flashbacks among some of our pioneers and recently active members. This whole committee, and I'll get to that later. I'm looking forward to it. Before PBS, bow hunters used field archery courses to practice. The NFAA, National Field Archery Association, was a national organization. Their emphasis leaned toward target shooting, competitive scores, and bullseyes. Draw weights gradually got lighter and lighter. People put all sorts of target equipment and gadgets on their hunting bows. It kept, I won't use that word. Anyway, in 1963, a group of die-hard bow hunters met to form PBS to separate archery interests from bow hunters. PBS was born in Charleston, West Virginia on September 17, 1963, a couple months before JFK was assassinated. 1963 was the same year the Beatles released their first album. That makes you feel old. Zip codes were invented that same year. I looked this up too. Gasoline cost 26 cents a gallon. You could fill your tank for a handful of quarters. I remember, matter of fact, I lived in Hamilton, Montana. I don't remember what year it was, but the first time I broke $3 filling a gas tank, and man, I got upset and kicked the tires, and $3, I paid 80 something the other day. Looking at that is change, ain't it? Anyway, PBS grew slowly, mostly by word of mouth. Organized archery didn't like our quote-unquote killing attitudes, nor our equipment restrictions. Let's fast forward to the decade of the 70s. Active PBS members defended bow hunting against negative articles in several gun magazines, claiming bows and arrows were not effective tools. PBS researched and took a stand against the use and need for dipod or drug-tip arrows. That same era, Hollis Allen patented a compound bow and licensed multiple manufacturers to mass produce them by the thousands. I got this sentence crossed out, so I guess I shouldn't read it, but I had something about the crossbow thing crawling out from under a rock. Anyway, so I didn't read that. Early PBS member M.R. James brought out Bowhunter magazine. Many of the first original writers for that magazine were PBS members writing about their bow hunts. In 1974, PBS created an associate member program, regulars and associates. Within 3 years, PBS tripled our membership. Then in 1977, PBS started their own publication, our own magazine. Here's a couple, we're going to go into a couple of short clips, and I went ahead and interviewed Roger Rothhaar and John Rook, both of which were long time PBS members and couldn't be here tonight. And we're going to show you a couple clips, and this is just, matter of fact, I haven't watched these whole things, but this is interviews that I did with both Roger Rothhaar and John Rook.
So that's how it kind of got started, but the PBS itself, I think they started that in the early 1960s, about that same time. I got acquainted with it, heard about it when it first started. I didn't get acquainted about it for a couple more years, and I think I joined in 1965. I think I'm probably the oldest living member in the club right now. They're older people, but I'm the oldest living member.
How did you learn about it? I mean, how did you...
I learned about it kind of through. I was interested in the aspects of expanding bow hunting, and in Ohio again it was new, and there weren't very many people doing it, and I was kind of interested in the development of it for conservation purposes and all. Even at that early age, I was concerned about such things. Of course, you know, in 56 I was 18 years old, so now we're talking 65 to 70 more years. I was in my early 20s, so So I wasn't a kid any longer.
No, but as far as PBS now, did you hear, did you read about it in a magazine, or did somebody?
I met Bill Carlos. He was one of the originals, I think. He may have not been one of the founders, but he was one of the originals in the PBS. And then I got acquainted with Don Thompson. After I became a member, I was a secretary for a few years, and I met Don Thompson, one of the founders, and I got to know him really well. Got a lot of information from him and that. And Tom Shohannes, he designed the PBS logo, for those who don't know it, the patch. He's an artist.
Were these guys from Ohio?
Don Thompson was from West Virginia.
Not too far away.
Not too far away. That's where they first organized, was in West Virginia. The PBS first organized in West Virginia. And the first meetings, as I recall, Don Thompson telling me, I wasn't there, of course, at that time, but telling me Fred Bear was there, Bob Swinehart was there.
You know, I've heard over the years, I hear a lot of comments that PBS is discriminatory, or PBS, the elite type comments, quote unquote. And I think it's more, and I don't know who it was that said it, but PBS is very selective, and everybody out there is not PBS material. I really honestly believe that.
Oh, I believe that without a doubt. What's wrong with being elite?
Yeah, and what's wrong with being selective? It's not discrimination. It's, you know, and I've used this analogy too. I mean, lots of people love to watch football, but that doesn't make them a good football player, and certainly not, you know, NFL material, you know, and some of them will never make it, but if they get serious about it, and there's nothing wrong with just being a fan, but the people that their entire lifestyle is formed around hunting with a bow and arrow. You know, over the years, I think that, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think the word, I hear feedback. The word professional scares people right from the starting gate. When they see Professional Bowhunters Society or Professional Bowhunters or whatever, immediately they think that this is an organization of guys that make their living shooting bows and arrows, and it's anything but that. It's the furthest thing from the truth.
It's their attitude.
It's attitude. It's professional attitude, and that's all there is to it. And again, it gets back to the fraternal aspect of it. When you get a group of like-minded people who are, and let's face it, most, you know, not brilliant, but intelligent, logical, common sense type people that love the same thing, you got a win-win situation, but it's just a matter of carrying on, you know. And
I agree. And the other thing too, we have a lot of associate members that could be qualified if they would just fill out their application and become regular members. If they would do that, we would probably, not be in as bad a shape as what some of the people are saying.
I apologize for that. I did a lot more talking than he did.